6. Closed paren accomplishing whatever one desires at will. 7. Closed paren possessing absolute lordship. 8. Closed paren possessing the power to subjugate all enemies. There are 10 secondary siddhis and is a : 1. Closed paren being undisturbed by hunger, thirst, and other bodily disturbances. 2. Closed paren hearing things infinitely far away. 3. Closed paren seeing things infinitely far away. 4. Closed paren moving the body wherever thought goes. Open paren teleportation. Closed paren. 5. Closed paren assuming any form desired. Open paren shape shifting. Closed paren. 6. Closed paren entering the bodies of others. Open paren possession. Closed paren. 7. Closed paren dying when one desires. 8. Closed paren witnessing and participating in the pastimes of the gods. 9. Closed paren perfect accomplishment of any task embarked upon. 10. Closed paren all orders or commands are carried out effortlessly, with no resistance at all. In some systems, there are 5 other siddhis : 1. Closed paren knowing the past, present and future. 2. Closed paren perfect tolerance of heat, cold and other dualities. 3. Closed paren knowing the minds of others. 4. Closed paren being completely aware of the influence of fire, sun, water, poison, and so on. 5. Closed paren never being conquered by others. A siddha can be defined as one who has attained all the siddhis, or just one. Paranormal abilities, siddhis, are said to emerge naturally as an individual advances along the path to siddhahood. He acquires more and more of ever-increasing power as he gets closer to his final destination, divinity. The gods are those who have already acquired all of these powers. The concepts of the siddha and siddhis have a great deal in common with the Illuminist ideal of becoming God. Illuminism, however, takes care to emphasize that all powers acquired are defined mathematically. There are no powers that can contradict the fundamental mathematical nature of existence. All powers must be definable mathematically, or they are fantasy. If there is a legitimate mathematical mechanism associated with a proposed power, then it must already exist or will definitely come into existence. Anything not forbidden is compulsory. Jains. The religion of the Jains has many gods and various heavens, but, crucially, none of these gods is a supreme creator god. For Jains, the universe is eternal. It is neither created nor capable of being destroyed. Jain thinkers summed up their position in the following way: Some foolish men declare that a creator made the world. This is not a good idea. Have nothing to do with it. If God made the world, where was he before he made it? If he needed nothing to stand on, where is he now? If no one was needed to make the stuff of the world was made from, then the world could have come about by itself, without the need for anyone to make it. If God created the world out of love for living things and need for them, why did he not make the world completely happy and free of misfortune? The idea that the world was created by God makes no sense at all. If only Abrahamists would listen to that good sense. Jains believe that each individual is composed of 2 things: jiva equals self equals mind / spirit, and jiva equals non - self equals matter. Like Western Gnostics, Jains believe that spirit is imprisoned by matter and must find the means to escape, which happens when an individual jiva attains enlightenment. Jains believe that the whole world is alive and everything has a soul. Every soul is evolving spiritually, and the best souls evolve into gods. That is, the universe creates gods rather than God creating the universe. Jainism asserts that the universe is cyclical. It is without beginning, without end, and without a creator. The objective of Jainism is to attain moksha / liberation from the cycles of birth, death and rebirth. A liberated soul is called a siddha and achieves a state of infinite bliss and power. Every jiva open paren living being closed paren has the potential of becoming a siddha and therefore God. This is identical to the illuminist position that everyone can become God. God is not the author of the universe, rather, he is the culmination of universal processes. He has attained enlightenment and become a liberated soul. He can then become a role model, teacher and mentor for everyone else. The last thing he would ever do is make anyone bow to him and worship him, and threaten them with eternal suffering in hell if they disobeyed him. Such a being would be the least enlightened imaginable and would in fact be functionally equivalent to the devil. The Abrahamist God is unquestionably Satan. He has no redeeming features at all. He is a cosmic tyrant and torturer, bringing misery wherever he goes. It is the Abrahamic God that must be overcome if humanity is to be liberated. The Jews are more or less the opposite of the Jains. While the latter have a supremely enlightened religion, the former have a supremely endicant religion. Jainism, like Illuminism, declares that the future of a man is in his own hands. Is that not the true gospel of freedom? All that Abrahamism offers is bondage to a monster who demands obedience even to the extent of making a father open parent Abraham close parent agree to kill his son for no reason at all other than to make concrete his absolute obedience. Abrahamic religions are slave religions while Enlightenment religions offer ultimate freedom and the possibility of achieving personal divinity. How can there be any question about which path is healthier and more rational for humanity? Jainism has many similarities with Illuminism, but, to its extreme detriment, has very little scientific or mathematical content. It is a kind of mythos version of Illuminism, lacking the logos elements to make it intellectually credible. What we must emphasize is that there is nothing new or revolutionary about the religious tenets of Illuminism. Many of its elements are present in all of the religions based on reincarnation, enlightenment and the absence of any creator God. What makes Illuminism unique is that it provides a mathematical, scientific and philosophical justification for its religious principles. Wikipedia. Has there been a nobler undertaking than this in recent times? An army of clever people have created a superb, free body of knowledge. It is by no means perfect, but it is the perfect access route to higher knowledge. If only the world could apply the Wikipedia philosophy and methodology to everything, we could be living in paradise. To all Wikipedia contributors, you all deserve a medal. You have all done your duty to the human race. Ayn Rand in Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, the heroes we use that word advisedly devils is more accurate. Retreat to Galt's Gulch, a secluded valley community in Colorado. This vast tract of land in the Rocky Mountains was never listed on any map. The floor of the valley was elevated 8,000 feet above sea level and the valley itself was completely cut off from the world apart from one camouflaged road. Here, the super rich hid from the world. Well, good riddance. Can't we build Galt's Gulch for real and send all the super rich there? We all know what will happen. The wider world will become paradise and the rich in the gulch will fight like rats in a sack. It will be hell on earth for them, and they will beg to be allowed back to the real world. One of the biggest lies ever told is Rand's that the rich could endure existence together, without ordinary people to serve them. The laziness and ineptitude of these people would become all too apparent. Without their money, they would be nothing. Note that another name for the gulch was Atlantis. Ho, ho, ho. Cosmic consciousness: the universe exists as an interconnected network of consciousness, forming a collective consciousness spanning the cosmos. Alternatively, the absolute or Godhead from which all conscious beings emanate. Canadian psychiatrist Richard M. Buck developed a theory in which ordinary consciousness humanity's natural state of consciousness lies above animal consciousness but below cosmic consciousness, a mystical higher state of consciousness. We can imagine humans being as the subjects of a perpetual conflict. On the one hand, they are continually assailed by bestial forces trying to drag them down to the domain of animal primitivism. But on the other hand, higher powers seek to raise them up to divinity. Most human beings succumb to the low road. Very few can take that high road that leads to the celestial plane. Sometimes gateway drugs open parent psychedelics such as LSD and magic mushrooms parent can give people a glimpse of cosmic consciousness. It might also be said that ordinary consciousness lies above the Jungian collective unconscious but below a collective consciousness parent akin to the noosphere of which Pierre Teilhard Chardin spoke parent. Simple animal consciousness is basic sentience while human self-consciousness involves reason, imagination, creativity and so on. Cosmic consciousness is the higher faculty, the next stage of human mental evolution, and it involves a huge expansion of ordinary consciousness and merging with the consciousness of others in a Teilhardian noosphere. Cosmic consciousness appears on Earth slowly, with only a few higher individuals parent psychonauts parent able to act as its pathfinders, but in time it will spread throughout humanity and the whole human race will be raised up. We can view this as a dialectical progression that is currently being obstructed by such dark forces as Abrahamism and free-market capitalism. These blockages have to be cleared before humanity can properly evolve in the mental sphere. There is no doubt that human consciousness can be radically transformed and enhanced, but first we must reject the brakes on conscious development. Abrahamism, with its irrational, superstitious faith keeps dragging us back to more primitive times. Only reason and the concept of becoming God can pull us forward to the bright uplands. Emergentism: the hypothesis that completely new types of organisms, behaviors and phenomena such as consciousness emerge suddenly and unexpectedly during the process of evolution, as a result of unpredictable rearrangements of pre-existing elements. In general, the unpredicted appearance of novel phenomena in the course of evolution. Panpsychism does not attribute full, human-style consciousness to the fundamental constituents of the universe, so it follows that more sophisticated mental states must arise from simpler mental states. Panpsychism is generally associated with weak emergence, meaning that there is no great gulf between what emerges and what preceded it. In terms of strong emergence, on the other hand, high-level properties have no obvious basis in low-level precursors, and thus seem to emerge from nothing. Scientific materialism is associated with strong emergence since life and mind do not appear to have any basis whatever in the dead stuff atoms of matter, as understood by scientists. Many arguments in favor of panpsychism claim materialism is incapable of accounting for subjective experience qualia. Also, the problems found with the logic and plausibility of strong emergence seem to offer a powerful repudiation of materialism. Panpsychism differs from strong emergence in that, according to panpsychism, even the smallest physical particles have mental characteristics. Strong emergence, on the other hand, claims that though the particles are mindless, some systems formed by them, and by nothing but them, do possess mental attributes, and even consciousness. The human brain is the classic example. The question that scientific materialists advocates of strong emergence manifestly fail to address is how consciousness can appear in a group of atoms given that each atom in the group is considered to have zero consciousness and indeed zero mental attributes. Imagine we filled a desert island with 110-year-old Chinese speakers, none of whom knew anything about the English language, and came back 50 years later. Would we expect them to be speaking English? Would we make any prediction that they would speak English? Wouldn't it be insane to hypothesize that they would be speaking English? There could be no rational basis for such a hypothesis, and no one would be taken seriously if they suggested it. Yet the advocates of strong emergence are saying something of exactly that nature. and in fact much more extreme. At least English is another language. Consciousness has nothing in common whatever with mindless, lifeless atoms. If you put an enormous number of mindless, lifeless atoms together and come back a billion years later, then apparently things composed of them will be alive and will talk to you and shake your hand. By what process? Magic. Emergence isn't really a philosophy at all. It works backwards. It takes the properties that we observe, living, thinking human beings, compares them with the lifeless, mindless atoms of which they are composed, then concludes rather self-evidently that life and consciousness must somehow have emerged open paren without giving any conceivable explanation close paren. Above all, it refuses to countenance the much more probable scenario that life and mind are already present in atoms, and more complex arrangements of atoms can express their inherent life and mental capacity much more effectively. Atoms and humans open paren composed of atoms close paren are on a continuum of life and mind. There is no miraculous point at which dead, mindless atoms somehow combine to create completely unexpected, and one might say impossible, properties such as life and consciousnesses. Jung. Psyche and matter are contained in one and the same world, and moreover are in continuous contact with one another. It is probable that psyche and matter are two different aspects of one and the same thing. Carl Jung. Jung's view is interpreted as panpsychism of the neutral monism variety. Neutral monism is the view that the mental and the physical are two ways of organizing or describing the same elements, which are themselves neutral, that is neither physical nor mental. This view denies that the mental and the physical are two fundamentally different things. Rather, the universe consists of only one kind of stuff, in the form of neutral elements that are in themselves neither mental nor physical. Panpsychism is the view that all physical reality has a mental aspect. It can be understood as a form of idealism if the fundamental constituents of reality not only have a mental component but are actually exclusively mental open paren yet capable of giving rise to the apparently material world close paren. Leibniz's monadology is the perfect expression of panpsychism. Idealism and rationalism, since the fundamental units of existence are monadic minds, governed by the laws of mathematics. Panpsychism can also be interpreted as a form of dualism, either as substance dualism open paren mind and matter as separate properties, but with matter always containing mind, or mind always being accompanied by matter close paren, or property dualism open paren everything having both mental and physical properties close paren. Naive panpsychism: the idea that inanimate objects are sentient and or intentional. This is similar to animism. Gaia theory: the view that the biosphere is a self-regulating system that maintains homeostasis in relation to many vital chemical and physical variables. It is sometimes interpreted in terms of panpsychism because any goal-directed behavior might qualify as mental. Others say that Gaia theory is an emergent function of organized, living matter, and not a quality of any old matter. Thus, in this view, it should be seen in terms of emergentism rather than panpsychism. The world's soul: just as a human body has a soul, so a planetary body has a soul, providing an intrinsic connection between all living things on the planet open paren. Earth has the Gaia soul close paren. By extension, the whole universe has a soul. This concept originated with Plato and was developed by the Neoplatonists. This has a great deal in common with James Lovelock's Gaia theory and Pierre Teilhard's noosphere. The idea is that our planet is alive in some sense, with a mind, and it seeks to create, support and help life to flourish on the planet. The planet is therefore a key agent in the process of evolution. And what is true of Earth is true on a larger scale of the whole universe. As we have seen, the Stoics believed in a vital, rational energy directing the universe: a cosmic soul. Human beings were in some sense fragments or seeds of this soul, and life made sense when we saw existence from its point of view rather than our own. That is when we exercised proper reason. If we resisted reason, life was likely to be miserable and baffling for us. The Hindu concepts of Brahman open paren, the cosmic soul closed paren, and Atman open paren, the individual soul deceived by Maya closed paren, are rather similar. Hegelianism. Hegel insisted that in order for a thinking subject open paren, human reason or consciousness closed paren, to know its object open paren, the world closed paren in any true sense at all, there must be some identity of thought and being. Otherwise, the subject would never have genuine access to the object and no certainty about any of its knowledge of the world. However, thought and being seem very different. We cannot say A equals A in terms of thought and being, that is, we cannot say that thought and being are identical, at least not at first sight, but might they become identical via some process? And thus Hegel introduced his wondrous new form of logic, dialectical logic, for precisely this purpose. Dialectical logic involves the overcoming of contradictions via an evolving process of thesis, antithesis and synthesis, which then becomes a new thesis, and the process starts over again at a higher level and keeps going until all contradictions are resolved in the ultimate synthesis, where finally A equals A is true in the classic sense. In other words, we start with A and B where A does not equal B, but where they may have much more in common than we suspect. After a long dialectical process, all of the apparent differences open paren, contradictions closed paren between A and B are ironed out and they merge with one another, that is, A now equals B, and they are revealed to be identical after all. The differences were a kind of illusion, or a consequence of insufficient evolution. Evolution, in this view, is convergence. All apparently separate things evolve towards togetherness. The many evolve towards the one. In the end, we are all identical, and, in fact, at the final end of history, we are all God. We have collectively attained the state of absolute perfection and absolute knowledge. We know everything because we are everything. The holographic principle. The holographic principle is a property of quantum gravity and string theories which states that the description of a volume of space can be thought of as encoded on a boundary to the region, preferably a light dash-like boundary like a gravitational horizon. String theory admits a lower dimensional description in which gravity emerges from it in what would now be called a holographic way. In a larger and more speculative sense, the theory suggests that the entire universe can be seen as a two-dimensional information structure painted on the cosmological horizon, such that the three dimensions we observe are only an effective description at macroscopic scales and at low energies. Cosmological holography has not been made mathematically precise, partly because the cosmological horizon has a finite area and grows with time. The holographic principle was inspired by black hole thermodynamics, which implies that the maximal entropy in any region scales with the radius squared, and not cubed as might be expected. In the case of a black hole, the insight was that the informational content of all the objects which have fallen into the hole could be entirely contained in surface fluctuations of the event horizon. The holographic principle resolves the black hole information paradox within the framework of string theory. Wikipedia. Mythopoeic thought: a hypothetical stage of human thought prior to modern thought. Humanity did not think in terms of generalizations and impersonal laws. Instead, humans regarded each event as an act of will by some personal being. This is mythos rather than logos thinking, and events are explained by way of narratives accounting for the actions of spirits and gods. Abrahamism is mythopoeic, the narrative being entirely concerned with the will of God, and of humans cooperating with, or defying, God's will. God causes the flood because he is angry, not because of an earthquake and subsequent tsunami. Open paren, that is a wholly natural event. Close paren. The bicameral mental model proposed by Julian Jaynes asserts that before the rise of modern consciousness, human beings experienced auditory hallucinations in which the gods and spirits spoke to them, open paren, a condition not unlike schizophrenia, close paren. Naturally, these provided a mythopoeic, narratized version of reality, which remains very popular to this day since most people understand the world through stories rather than hard, logical analysis. It has been claimed that the ancient Egyptians and Mesopotamians lived in a wholly mythopoeic world, and the same may be said of the Hebrews, Christians and Muslims. The latter three religions replaced polytheistic mythos with a monotheistic mythos, but all the mythos rules and mentality remained in place. The ancient Greeks were the first to offer a logos rather than mythos way forward. The pre-Socratic philosophers treated God as a kind of impersonal, abstract cosmic mind, open paren, a deist rather than theist approach, that is, God remote from us rather than personally interested in us, close paren. In time, this evolved into the scientific materialist view where God was replaced by a set of natural, inflexible laws of cause and effect. For these intellectual Greeks, each event was seen not as an act of God's will, open paren. Contrast Muslims who, even today, think that Allah personally directs their RPG grenades, that is, it's His will whether they hit their target or not, and has nothing to do with the laws of physics, close paren. Logos thinking kills mythopoeic thinking. Logos thinking is the basis of authentic consciousness, but, sadly, most people prefer the mythos worldview. They are not truly conscious and in charge of their own destiny, but instead remain strongly bicameral, believing that some sort of divine will is really in charge, to which they think they can pray to change the course of their lives. The whole concept of prayer is bicameral. It implies that a person can enter into direct communication with the gods, and even with the creator of the universe, by uttering a few ritual incantations, open paren, like magic, close paren, and then pleading with the creator for a few personal favors not to be conferred on others. Prayer is conceived as a kind of direct conversation between a human being and his creator. It is thus exactly the same as bicameralism, whereby a person imagines he hears the voice of God in his own head, giving him commands. In the Logos view, this is insane. It's not an exaggeration to say that most of humanity remains bicameral, prone to magic mythopoeic thinking, and that they cannot be considered fully conscious and rational. Mythos human beings vastly outnumber Logos human beings, which is why our world is the way it is. It's a place of stories, illusions, delusions, hallucinations, emotions and sensations rather than reason, logic, science, mathematics and philosophy. Stupid, emotional people always block rational progress. How on earth can anyone rationally deal with billions of Muslims, Christians and Jews who continue to believe in scientifically disproven fantasies? How can the planet possibly become enlightened when such people exist? Vitalism: the belief that the functions of a living organism are due to a vital principle distinct from biochemical reactions, that the processes of life are not explicable by the laws of physics and chemistry alone, that life is self-determining. Vitalism invokes a vital principle: the vital spark or alien vital, open paren, sometimes equated with the soul or spirit, close paren. In medicine, vitalism proposes that disease results from imbalances in the vital energies that distinguish living from non-living matter. In the West, in ancient times, these vital forces were associated with the four temperaments and humors: open paren, sanguine, choleric, melancholic and phlegmatic, close paren. In the East, forces such as ki and prana are held of central importance and must be perfectly balanced. Any blockages must be removed. Vitalism in medicine is concerned with living energies, while modern Western medicine is materialistic, reductionist and mechanistic. Western medicine sees a patient as a broken-down car in need of repair by a mechanic. Vitalist medicine is much more concerned with mental energy, with the patient as a living organism not reducible to spare parts. Non-dualism: the Eastern belief that things which appear distinct are in fact not separate but belong to an underlying unity, thus it has much in common with Western monism. While monism holds that all phenomena actually belong to the same substance, non-dualism asserts that different phenomena are inseparable or flowing into each other, and there is no hard demarcation line between them. Nevertheless, they are not the same as monism would contend they ultimately are. Zen Buddhism is non-dualist while Advaita Hinduism is monist-open pairing because it contends that all phenomena are really Brahman closed pairing. The Illuminati's most illustrious Grand Masters: Solomon, greatest magician; Pythagoras, greatest inspiration, greatest intuitive genius; Heraclitus, greatest mystic and riddler, father of the dialectic; Empedocles, greatest showman; Simon Magus, most revered, most transcendent, most spiritual, most divine, man become God; Hypatia, noblest and bravest, the eternal feminine, the embodiment of Sophia, goddess of wisdom; Leibniz, greatest intellectual, greatest genius in human history; Adam Weishaupt, greatest political activist and revolutionary; Goethe, greatest artist and aesthete, the most complete genius. Open pairing: some estimates of IQ make Goethe the person with the highest IQ in history. Close pairing. Hegel, greatest visionary and system builder, the greatest advocate of dialectics. Noumena and phenomena. Platonic ideas and forms are noumena, and phenomena are things displaying themselves to the senses. Open bracket, close bracket. At noumena and the noumenal world are objects of the highest knowledge, truths, and values is Plato's principal legacy to philosophy, the Oxford Companion to Philosophy. Noumenon: from ancient Greek knowing, open pairing I think, close pairing, from nous open pairing mind, close pairing something that is thought, the object of an active thought. Plato defined phenomena as those things perceived by the senses and noumena as those things reflected upon by thought. Open pairing reason. Close pairing, we can know something rationally. Open pairing as a noumenon. Close pairing while having no sensory experience of it. So, does that constitute knowledge or not? Is knowledge which is derived from reason more or less important than knowledge derived from perception? Does what is thought have more or less significance than what is perceived? According to rationalists, noumena, explored by reason, are the only true source of absolute knowledge, while empiricists claim that all true knowledge must begin with the senses. Kant, trying to reconcile rationalism and empiricism, muddied the waters by defining phenomena as objects of experience. Open pairing accessible to the senses. Close pairing and noumena as things as they are in themselves, in a state of being not accessible to human reason. Open pairing, that is, Kanters, turned noumena on their head in comparison with Plato. Close pairing. Kant argued that reason often went astray because it tried to grasp the unknowable noumenal universe instead of restricting itself to reflecting on objects of experience. Kant is therefore much more of an empiricist than rationalist, although he tried to help the rationalist position by arguing that objects of experience must conform to reason because they are in fact created by mind. That is, every object we experience is consistent with rational categories because those constitute the mental framework via which we process the world of experience. The school of positivism asserted that knowledge must be limited to what can be observed and scientifically comprehended. It focused on observable facts alone and proclaimed that any proposition that cannot be reduced to a simple statement of fact is unintelligible. Positivism is the default scientific position. We can't stress enough that the philosophical paradigm of science is entirely based on materialism. empiricism and positivism, and therefore all scientists are incapable of considering the nominal domain. Illuminism is rationalist and might also be described as positivist in a certain sense. Any proposition that cannot ultimately be reduced to a valid statement of mathematics is unintelligible. Mathematical facts are the only facts, and mathematics is the only source of true and absolute knowledge. Illuminism does not place observable facts on a pedestal but rather mathematical facts. Logical positivism was a further progression of positivism and asserted that philosophy, like science, should be based on observation and testing. Open-parent positivism is a more general term than logical positivism. The latter is the philosophy open-parent or epistemology closed-parent to which positivists subscribe. Positivism itself can be carried into other fields such as law, politics, economics and so on. Closed-parent. According to logical positivism, the only meaningful propositions are those that can be verified empirically. This is a fundamental issue. If someone says, "Prove it," what do they mean and what are they expecting? For a scientist, a repeatable experiment involving the human senses open-parent, no matter how fallible and deceptive these senses demonstrably are closed-parent, is required. For an illuminist, a mathematical proof is a much more certain basis of knowledge than any scientific experiment. Science is a moving target. It continually contradicts itself and replaces old discredited theories open-parent that were once experimentally verified closed-parent, with new ones. Science itself only lays claim to provisional truths and acknowledges that current theories might be replaced by new truths at any time. Science doesn't aim for absolute knowledge but only for progressively more reliable knowledge. Illuminism, on the other hand, focuses on eternal, immutable truths such as 1 + 1 = 2. All such truths are mathematical truths. We don't deny for a moment that science is extremely useful, but we absolutely deny that it is a source of immutable truth. If you let science be your guide, you have abandoned any pretense to absolute knowledge. Anyone who asks us to prove something scientifically is asking us to prove something in a manner that is inherently unprovable in its own self-defined terms. Once upon a time, science conclusively proved that light is a wave phenomenon and definitely not a particle phenomenon, but now claims that light is both particle and wave. So, how can anyone take scientific proof seriously, except in a strictly provisional sense? Science never in fact proves anything. All it does is assemble provisional theories and evidence that, at a certain time, lends support to those theories. It's not about certainty, it's about the degree of confidence we can have in an assertion. Confidence is neither truth nor knowledge. When it comes to mathematics, on the other hand, you can be 100% certain that 1 + 1 = 2. So, isn't it time people stopped asking for scientific proof of the soul, for example, and started considering mathematical proofs of the soul? The soul is a noumena, not a phenomenon, and hence must be addressed in nominal terms. Sure, it can have phenomenal consequences in certain circumstances, but these will not be amenable to the scientific method. So, what will you do? Reject the soul because it is inherently outside the scope of conventional science, in which case, you have elevated science to the status of religion and proclaim that anything not in the holy book of science is false. You have become a person of faith. Remember, absence of scientific evidence is not evidence of existential absence. It's about time people got serious about what they regard as truth and knowledge. Mathematics alone offers certainty. Those who believe that science does are confused and philosophically illiterate. Science should be used as a tool for helping us to throw light on mathematical reality. It should not be considered as any kind of truth in itself. It isn't, not even in its own self-declared terms. It's far too dependent on provisional theories and provisional experiments. As Thomas Kuhn so brilliantly showed, science operates via paradigms. These are not truths. They are just intellectual frameworks in which science is conducted during certain periods. The fact that they often become dogmatic is thanks to the scientific priesthood who profit from them and owe their status to them. The question is simple: are thinking and reasoning more important than perception? Rationalists say yes and empiricists say no. Can we arrive at the truth purely by thinking, by the use of reason and logic, or must we associate truth only with the evidence of our senses? Open paren, seeing is believing, literally close paren. Nietzsche famously said, "There are no facts, only interpretations." We agree with this entirely, except in relation to mathematics. Only mathematical facts are true facts, and that's because they are analytic truths: they are true by definition. In some sense, the whole of mathematics might be said to flow from the single truth that 1 + 1 = 2. In mathematics, all truths flow necessarily and automatically from just one, or a few, central axioms and definitions. There is no room for interpretation. Facts are facts. Truths are truths. Errors are errors. No one on earth can physically perceive these immutable and eternal truths of mathematics. So why are scientists so fixated on perception as the most reliable source of truth? We have to move beyond perception and embrace reason. Just as the Enlightenment rejected the absurdities of religious faith and revelation in favor of reason, so should reason be enshrined above sensory perception. Our senses are not the judges of truth: our reason is. There is no sensory organ of truth: the mental organ of reason is the closest we'll ever get to a truth detector. Mathematics, the essential subject of truth, is transcendental: it's outside the world of sense experience. Join the rationalists. Join Team Leibniz. Wouldn't you prefer to be on the same side as the likes of Pythagoras, Plato, Descartes, Spinoza and, above all, Leibniz, the supreme rationalist and logician? Reason is a touchstone, not sense perception. Illuminism. Keywords associated with Illuminism: monism, open paren, a single ontological substance: the monadic substance, close paren. Panpsychism, open paren, mind is everywhere and everything has a mind, via monads, close paren. The dialectic, open paren, the world evolves via the resolution of opposites, close paren. Idealism, open paren, mind is more important than matter, mind is primary, close paren. Rationalism, open paren, reason is more important than sense-perception, close paren. Logos, open paren, reason and logic are embedded in the fabric of reality via mathematics, close paren. Transcendentalism, open paren, truth is found beyond the sensory domain, close paren. Psychological philosophy. The attitude most people have to rationalism or empiricism is heavily influenced by their Myers-Briggs personality type. Introverted intuitives and thinkers are drawn to rationalism. Philosophy and mathematics are archetypal introverted, rationalist subjects since they require no engagement with the sensory, external world at all. A philosopher could literally lie on his bed with his eyes shut and solve all of the problems of existence. He doesn't need to look out of any window. A mathematician just needs a pencil and paper. Most people are extroverted sensing and feeling types and enthralled to their senses. Science is an extroverted subject since it looks to outer rather than inner world, to externality rather than internality. It asks, what's out there, rather than what's in here. It's about outer space rather than inner space. So, inevitably, it emphasizes the senses. For extroverts, they use the eyes to look at the world, whereas, for introverts, eyes are the window on the soul. Science is actually an extremely peculiar subject because if we associate thinking, intuition and introversion with intellect, and feeling, sensing and extroversion with will, then science is on the wrong side of the fence. It belongs to will rather than intellect, Even though it's supposed to be an intellectual enterprise, it's defined by extroverted rather than introverted thinking, and extroverted rather than introverted intuition. It's obsessed with sensory data. Scientists, in their eagerness to interact with the world and with experimental data, never stop to subject their ideas to deep philosophical analysis. Most of them hate philosophy, to their immense detriment. Science needs to become enormously more philosophically engaged if it's to make any further progress. Illuminism places mathematics and philosophy above science. Science is actually viewed as quite vulgar and stupid, overly concerned with the material world rather than the domain of mind. Leibniz is perhaps the archetypal illuminist, a brilliant mathematician and philosopher with a secondary yet dazzling skill in science. Newton was a scientist first and foremost, if we leave aside his strange religious obsessions, with a secondary interest in mathematics and philosophy. So, guess whom scientists revere? Scientists are dismissive of the soul because they are extroverted materialists guided by their senses. Their psychological type makes them reject the soul and the inner world. The soul is something infinitely bizarre and mysterious to them, and they find it easy to dismiss it as nonsense. Most Abrahamists are extroverted sensing and feeling types, with almost zero intellect. Scientists tend to be extroverted sensing and thinking types. Scientists are usually regarded as introverts, but this is only because they tend to have poor social skills, not because they direct their energy inwards rather than outwards, which is the true definition of introversion. While Abrahamists feel the soul, scientists do not. That's why so many of them are atheists. The more philosophical of them, such as Einstein, tend to retain a religious sensibility, although they rarely subscribe to any mainstream religion. As we have already observed, Abrahamists are stupid extroverted sensing and feeling types. They are attracted to faith in preference to knowledge because faith is anti-intellectual while knowledge is intellectual. They agree with Luther that reason is the devil's whore. Thinking and reason give them a headache. Scientists are clever extroverted sensing and thinking types and are attracted to materialism rather than idealism. They are generally unintuitive. Illuminists are hyperrational introverted thinking and intuitive types. They are idealists rather than materialists, rationalists rather than empiricists. In terms of deciding who is best placed to know the truth of existence, one of the things you must ponder is the psychological type of those preaching to you. Clearly, Abraham, Moses, Jesus and Mohammed were not intellectuals. They were stupid creatures of wool who never made any clever statements at all. You'd need to be pretty dim-witted yourself to take them seriously. Equally, extroverted scientific materialists are not exactly best placed to explain the inner world of the soul to you. Their knee-jerk hostility to religion is entirely predictable. They are not intuitive. They use thinking to support their sensory perceptions. Illuminists, on the other hand, use thinking to support their intuition. Who will best understand the soul, a sensing type or an intuitive type? Well, given that the soul is not an object of sensory experience, the answer is self-evident. It's pointless to expect scientists to have much of a religious sensibility, and they are the last people you would go to if you were seeking the spiritual answers to existence. Your best bet is introverted intuitives who are also extremely rational thinkers. That, of course, is exactly what the Illuminati are all about. It may seem an odd thing to say, but a person's relationship to ultimate truth is psychologically determined. Scientists will always struggle with ultimate truth because their brains aren't properly wired for the task. Scientists will be people whose greatest triumphs relate to understanding the phenomenal world out there. That's why they are materialists, empiricists and positivists. They're hopeless when it comes to the nominal domain in the natural territory of idealists, rationalists and intuitives. So, If you want to come closer to ultimate truth, make sure you choose your gurus wisely. The psychological type of the messenger is as important as the message, and indeed shapes the message. The Illuminati are introverted, intuitive, rationalist thinkers. We are the best suited to probing the mysteries of existence. Don't look to us for materialist proofs. When you enter our world, you are stepping into the mind world. If you're hung up on finding sensory data regarding ultimate reality, you will never get anywhere. We're not for one moment suggesting that you should turn to faith. Reason is the supreme tool for bringing humanity face to face with the innermost secrets of reality, and it was reason that led the Illuminati to the greatest truth of them all. The universe is a mathematical system. There is nothing in it that isn't mathematical. Mathematics explains everything. Mathematics is everything. What could be more rational, logical and intuitive than mathematics? What could possibly rival mathematics as a candidate for ultimate truth? Nothing else comes close. There are simply no other viable candidates. Revelation and faith are absurd. The Creator God is absurd. Karma is absurd. Although it must be said that Eastern religion is otherwise full of intuitive insights of the highest order, and can easily be rebranded mathematically. As for science, all of its greatest successes are owed entirely to mathematics. So, that's it. There are no other contestants in the game, no other shows in town. Your choice is between Abrahamism, faith, 2 science, atheism, and 3 Illuminism, the monadic mathematics of the soul and existence, the number of the soul is 0, Well, what's it to be? God. God is shorthand for guarantor of the highest values. If God is dead, as Nietzsche declared, then the universe contains no guarantor of that which is best and highest. We ourselves must become gods in order to fill that divine vacuum. Richard Dawkins replaces God with a selfish gene. Not much of an exchange, is it? God versus Satan. Every aspect of the universe evolves to its optimal degree, its omega point. If the two primary components of the mind are intellect and will, then God represents the omega point of the former and Satan of the latter. God achieves complete knowledge of the universe via mathematics and complete intellectual mastery of material existence. He can use his mind to alter the equations that determine material existence in his local environment and achieve the kind of power exhibited by Neo in the Matrix. God is dialectically opposed by Satan, the Lord of Will. We can't think of any better way of defining Satan than to refer to the monster worshipped by Jews, Christians and Muslims. Just read their unholy texts. You will observe that their God never says anything intellectual. All holy texts are devoid of mathematics, science, philosophy, reason and logic, and make no attempt to account for this extraordinary absence. They emphasize irrational concepts such as faith and revelation and insanely claim that these are superior to reason. These books have no moral or ethical content. They feel no need to account for why God would order his first prophet Abraham to murder his innocent son for no reason. They do not consider that such an order inherently violates any code of morality. These holy books are overwhelmingly about control and dominance, about making human beings bow and grovel. They are intent on creating the widest possible gap between God and humanity. Human beings are to be mere insects, begging for mercy from their Lord and Master. Humanity is reduced to penal servitude where they must blindly and absolutely obey, and live in terror of the most horrific and indeed eternal punishment if they disobey. Abrahamism is obsessed with obedience. In fact, obedience is really the sole subject of Judaism, Christianity and Islam. Heresy, apostasy, free thinking are all to be met with death. Infidels are to be persecuted and killed. The degree of intolerance and hatred towards those who reject the Abrahamic God is effectively infinite. Hatred, intolerance, extremism, fanaticism, irrationality, violence, persecution, and extermination are the hallmarks of Abrahamism. These are all manifestations of will. The God of the Jews, Christians and Muslims is pure will. He exhibits zero intellectual capacity and never at any time explains himself rationally. There is no dialogue between this God and humanity. We must obey him, no matter if it means killing our own children. That's the whole point of the story of Abraham. Only self-hating slaves could ever embrace Judaism, Christianity or Islam. These are not the people of God, but of Satan. We barely acknowledge them as human. They are an insult to the human race and represent everything that is worst about human beings. They are bestial, irrational creatures of will, indistinguishable from animals. The God they worship is nothing but themselves writ large. If they were to acquire immense power, they would wish to rule over a planet of slaves, permanently on their knees in worship. Abraxas is the god of reason and Jehovah/Christ/Allah/Satan is the god of will. Which god you choose to acknowledge says everything about you. Better an atheist than a devil-worshipping Jew, Christian or Muslim. Just as some people will embark on the quest to become God, others will follow the other path and seek to become Satan. Look at the men and women of Wall Street and Washington, D.C. Look at monarchs and celebrities and the super-rich. All of these people are evil scum who have actively chosen to emulate Satan. They want to be worshipped by the stupid, credulous common herd. Would-be Satans are everywhere. We are surrounded by them. Fosters and Duckins. All conscious creatures have the ability to achieve gnosis and become God. However, gnosis is usually accomplished by higher beings than humans. Where Abrahamists refer to angels and demons, we refer to Foster's open-pair and higher beings of light and reason, enlightened emissaries of the Abraxas close-pair and Duckins open-pair and higher beings of power and dominance, endocrine overlords and rulers, princes of the devil close-pair and. Every intelligent planet has Fosters and Duckins, but they do not go around as comic-book superheroes or dastardly villains. They are shadowy beings operating behind the scenes. To use the language of Star Wars, they are keeping the Force in balance, so to speak. Their task is not to save or enslave humanity but merely to maintain the conditions in which those of intellect pursue their rightful path of light, and those of will gravitate towards the Prince of Darkness. Compared with ordinary human beings, they enjoy much greater longevity open-pair and thus have to continually fake their own deaths and create new identities close-pair and have what humans would call special powers. They are like superheroes. However, there are very few of them, and they draw no attention to themselves. They are not here for our benefit, but for their own. They are progressing towards their own personal objectives. They may help certain groups. The Fosters on Earth are known to the leadership of the Illuminati and the Archons are known to the most senior level of the Old World Order, and they may offer esoteric knowledge and powers, but this is always done in a subtle, responsible way on both sides. Fosters and Duckins often appear in spiritual stories. In Faust, for example, Mephistopheles is an Archon. In the Arthurian tales, Galahad is a Foster, and Merlin may also be regarded as a Foster. Neither the Fosters nor Archons are permitted to take over or unduly influence the world. Typically, they target a few individuals open-pair and usually prophets, celebrities, leaders and geniuses close-pair and spread their message via them. They themselves would never play a lead role in the limelight. Abrahamism is an Archon-inspired religion and Illuminism is a Foster-inspired religion. Rational people seek to achieve rational gnosis open-pair and ultimate self-knowledge close-pair and willful people seek to achieve willful gnosis open-pair and knowledge of power over others, the true message of Abrahamism close-pair and. However, you should not dwell on the subject of Fosters and Duckins. Concentrate on yourself. Don't look to others to save you. Save yourself. Arkins and Fosters are extremely unlikely to have any direct impact on your life unless you move in certain rarefied circles. They are not allowed to obstruct any natural alterations in the balance of power on Earth. Earth, at the present time, is an Arkan planet, under the sway of primitive will, greed, hate, selfishness and self-interest. However, there is no law against it becoming a foster planet of light and reason. It's up to all of us to make that happen. There are 144 Arkans on Arkan planets and only 36 Fosters. On Foster planets, these numbers are reversed. Every intelligent planet is playing the Arkan-Foster game. You yourself may one day become a higher being and reincarnate as a Foster open parent or Arkan if you are a creature of will parent on a planet like Earth. If you want to become God, you will have to use your life as a Foster as the final springboard to Gnosis. You must already be acting like God if you wish to become God open parent or like Satan if that is of more appeal to you. The Wall Street Gang are doing a good job as trainee devils parent. How seriously you take the concept of Arkans and Fosters is up to you open parent. It may strike you as pure mythos parent, but bear in mind that if there is a ladder of higher existence then there must be beings above us and below God. Think of all the tales about gods visiting the earth and interacting with primitive humans. Think of the tales of Erich von Däniken. Think of the Watchers and the Nephilim. Think of ancient stories of angels and demons. Are they all pure fantasy or is there a kernel of truth in them? Have higher beings steered our civilization and accelerated our evolution? Was Satan, the god of Abraham, actually an Arkan who physically lived on Earth, appeared to certain individuals, and manipulated them to do his will? Every healthy religion must be a mixture of mythos and logos. Abrahamism is pure mythos and zero logos. Illuminism is overwhelmingly a logos religion, but it retains some mythos elements dating back to ancient Gnosticism. Sometimes it's said that the mythos elements conceal the greatest truths, the highest secret, the supreme wisdom. It's for you to decide for yourself if mythos has any deep meaning or is just some entertaining tall tale. The highest degrees of Illuminism are concerned with the secret meanings of mythos tales going back to King Solomon and even further back to the dawn of civilization when Fosters and Arkans were said to have played a much more prominent role in human affairs than they do now. Did they bury secret knowledge to help chosen seekers? Did they leave guides regarding how to achieve Gnosis and become God? Did they deliver the secret of the Holy Grail to Simon Magus? Did they present him with the mathematical secret of how to control matter with the mind, to transmute base metal into gold? Infinite versus finite beings. We are all immortal, yet our actual experience of life is as an endless sequence of finite, mortal lives open parent via reincarnation parent. The sequence can terminate only when Gnosis, enlightenment, is attained. The big picture. Abrahamism's big picture, the creator God who has all the answers, the cosmos's creation. Eastern religion's big picture, karma, illusion and balance open parent. The cosmos is an uncreated, cyclical, living organism parent. Science's big picture, materialism open parent. The cosmos is a clockwork, purposeless mechanism, inexorably winding down parent. Illuminism's big picture, mathematics open parent. The cosmos is living mathematics parent. Abrahamism and Eastern religion are not based on mathematics. The former is entirely devoid of mathematical content while the latter has many concepts that could be converted into mathematics. Science and Illuminism are both mathematical, but the former regards various key numbers as non-ontological, that is as unreal and abstract open parent, namely, 0, infinity, negative and imaginary numbers parent. Illuminism assigns ontological reality to these same numbers, and elevates zero and infinity to the key determinants of existence. Note that these numbers are wholly beyond materialism and empiricism. Here are all your choices: 1. Abrahamism, no mathematics. 2. Eastern religion, some disguised mathematics. 3. Science, and complete mathematics. 4. Illuminism, complete mathematics. It's very simple, isn't it? Everything is about the extent to which mathematics can be equated with existence. The stupid, mathematically and scientifically illiterate Abrahamists disregard mathematics. The Eastern religious believers convert it into mythos and mysticism. The skeptical scientists acknowledge mathematics only to the extent that it accords with their senses and experience. Empiricism, materialism and positivism. And Illuminism defines mathematics as existence itself. Rationalism. There are no other players in this game. Nothing else will be coming along. You must make your choice, rational or irrational, on the basis of the 4 options we have presented.